The most dangerous inmate in America. Nikko Jenkins is a man who fears no one, not even God himself. The man is so dangerous that he was sentenced to an imprisonment of 450 years. A murderer who went on one of the most ruthless killing sprees the world has ever seen after his release from jail. Watch this video till the end as we discuss in depth the case of the most feared inmate in America. If you're new here, then consider subscribing to Crime 101 for more spine-chilling videos like this. Just a few years back, Nikko Jenkins went viral on social media because of his intimidating looks. He was the most dangerous inmate, as even some of the most notorious criminals were scared of him. His story began on September 16, 1986. From his early childhood, he was a victim and witness of some of the most traumatic experiences. And in a pretty fitting way, Nikko Jenkins was born into a family of criminals and felons, and he decided to go down the same route when push came to shove. 7 of his close family members were convicted for various criminal outbreaks. His father, mother, 3 sisters, cousin, and uncle were sentenced for various criminal activities like murder, arson, sexual violence, etc. His mother and sister are both currently serving sentences in prison. His father passed away when the boy was really young, but before his death, even he had been convicted on several accounts of domestic abuse. Growing up with this kind of violence, of course, Nico was extremely affected by it. In fact, when he was just 7 years old, he took a gun to his elementary school intending to shoot it at a bunch of people. Following the footsteps of his family members, Nikko Jenkins attempted his first crime at the age of 15. With his whole life ahead of him, Nico was sentenced to jail when he was found guilty of carjacking and aggravated assault in the process. During his time in prison, Nico didn't hold back on his notorious acts as he attacked a prison guard and started a riot in the prison. Due to the neglect and falseful decision by the judges, Nico was released after 10.5 years in 2013. In a few moments, you'll get to know how this would become the biggest mistake the law enforcement authorities made. Instead of extending his sentence for the notorious acts, the judge ordered that Nico would be serving the charges of these crimes concurrently instead of extending his time in prison. But little did they know that within a month of his release, Nico would go on to commit 4 brutal murders in the span of 10 days. After a few days being released from prison, Nikko Jenkins began his killing spree and brutally killed 2 random men along with his sister and cousin. The 2 women worked as bait who lured the 2 men into their room where Nico was ready to kill them. He shot both of them in the head, took everything they had, and left along with his sister and cousin. On August 11, 2013, a police officer found 2 bodies abandoned in a pickup truck near a swimming pool. Upon closer investigation, he found that the 2 men had been shot to death and had no kind of identification or money on them, indicating that they had been robbed as well. Later, the police discovered that the 2 men were Juan Uribe Peña and Jorge Carilla Ruiz, who were trapped by Nico's sister, Erica, and his cousin, Christine. After killing these men, Nico didn't stop, as he went on to kill his old cellmate just 8 days later. The second victim's name was Curtis Bradford, who had a really good relationship with Nico when they were in jail. Nico and Curtis met a day prior before his murder, where they both took a picture which Curtis posted on his social media. Nico's motive behind the murder was very straightforward. Erica believed that the shooting at their house 6 months prior was executed by Curtis's friends. So Nico invited Curtis for a robbery, but instead took him somewhere abandoned and brutally killed him along with his sister. After a few days of silence, Nico was back at his killing spree. The final victim of Nikko Jenkins was Andrea Kruger. Andrea was on her way to her home from work when Nico stopped her in the middle of a lonely street. He forced her to get out of the car and mercilessly killed her by firing 4 bullets at her. It was later found out that Nico had tried to light her car on fire so that the body wouldn't be recognized. And this time, it was his uncle, Warren Levering, who assisted him in the crime. However, his mother, Lori Jenkins, was also involved, as she was the one who supplied Nico the ammo for his gun. Nico would have actually gotten away with all these murders if it wasn't for his then-wife, Shalonda, who filed a report against him when he started threatening her. With Shalonda's help, the police gathered enough evidence to incarcerate Nico for all his crimes. Upon investigating, the authorities could also deduce that it was Nico behind all those gruesome murders in the past few weeks. He also ended up confessing to all the murders, saying that all of them were actually ritualistic sacrifices that he had made to the Egyptian god Apophis. While confessing to his crimes, the man kept howling, laughing, and speaking in gibberish, confusing the investigators. After being arrested, Nico was put into solitary confinement since he was declared too dangerous to be allowed any kind of interaction with the other prisoners. The truth is that Nico was involved in many cults and weird practices that included an attempt to carve the number 666 on his forehead. While Nico was in solitary prison, he got his hand on a razor blade with which he tried to carve the number by looking into a mirror, but it turns out that the number appeared as 999. This wasn't enough. Nico sliced his tongue in half so that it could resemble a snake. But the craziest thing that he did was to slice his own penis to make it look like the god Apophis, causing enough damage to require 27 stitches. During his time in prison, Nikko Jenkins tried to kill himself 2 times by hanging himself in his cell. When questioned why he did this, the only thing the man could say was that God had commanded him to do so, saying that he would defend Apophis with animalistic savage brutality, which is why he did all that he did. In February 2014, Nikko Jenkins filed a federal lawsuit against the state of Nebraska, demanding $24.5 million for releasing him early from the jail and not providing him mental treatment. In his statement, Nico mentioned that the state knew that he was possessed by the Apophis demons, but didn't provide him any help. Hearing this, you must be feeling sorry for Nico, as the poor man didn't get the treatment he deserved. The system failed and turned him into a notorious serial killer. But let me burst the bubble for you, as he was faking his mental illness the entire time. According to the court psychiatrist, Nikko Jenkins was completely healthy and didn't have any demons inside him that ordered him to do such stuff. Nico did all these acts out of his own will and was faking these psychotic symptoms. Throughout his entire trial, Nikko Jenkins would always claim that the snake god Apophis was behind all of his acts and that he was controlled by him. Even after he was proved mentally fit by the court psychiatrist, he still carried out with his Apophis act so that he could avoid his death sentence. However, after he was declared mentally fit, Nico was put on death row for his unforgivable crimes in 2017 by a 3-judge panel. He was also sentenced to 450 years in prison for weapons charges connected to the murders. While he did try to appeal his sentence back in 2017, in 2020, his request was denied. Today, the man is in jail, awaiting his death, while showing absolutely no remorse for all the lives that he has taken. That's a wrap for the most dangerous inmate in America. What did you think of this whole situation? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, while you're on the way down, like this video if you've enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. See you next time with another bone-chilling story. And until then, goodbye.